So, I'm about to show you the most important combo in all of Necromancy, especially when it comes to the higher tier bossing. You need something in particular, well actually you need two things. You need a passive Ring of Vigor from whatever that quest was. You also need a Conservation of Energy Relic in your Archaeology Relic system. It's quite a high level one, but it is mandatory for this strat to work. And basically what this does is this combined with Ring of Vigor, you'll save 20% of your adrenaline every time you ultimate, which means when you Living Death and when you Death Skulls, you'll be saving a lot of adrenaline. And you might be wondering, what is the strat? And the strat is when we're Living Death, we have a way to get 3 Death Skulls into the Living Death. What does Living Death do? It makes Death Skulls have a 12-second cooldown, and it lasts for 30 seconds. But if you play your cards right, you have just barely enough time to get the triple Death Skulls in here, believe it or not. So, how do you do it? So what you need to do is you need to Living Death and Adrenaline Potion on the exact same tick. This is the only way this will work. Otherwise, you'll have to skip an ability at the end and just walk in order for your third skulls to go off. But essentially, if we Living Death and Adrenaline Pot in the same tick, we're then able to Touch of Death, which gives us bonus adrenaline because we're using Living Death, gives us 6% extra. And that combined with the Adrenaline Pot gives us just enough for Death Skulls to be activated on our second ability. So I'll show you right now. I'm going to Living Death, then I'm going to Adrenaline Pot at the same time. I'd recommend keybinding one or both of these things, because there's no chance you're going to click them. Like, you have to keybind one, otherwise it's not going to work. Or keybind at least one. So yeah, ready? So in a couple of seconds, I'm going to Living Death, Adrenaline Pot, then I'm going to Touch of Death, and then Death Skulls. And then you'll see we will be able to use 3 Death Skulls in the Living Death. So here goes. There it is, then Touch of Death, and look, we have just barely, look, you see it just got to 60% there. Just barely enough. Obviously this needs the Zuck Cape as well, otherwise there's no way that's going to work. But then what that means is that if you just keep firing your abilities, you know, auto attacks and fingers and touches and stuff, that's the second Death Skulls now, so that is popping off there, and then we have just barely enough, so 5 seconds on there, but 7 seconds on the timer, and we have just enough to get another Death Skulls at the end of our Living Death. And then look, it's still on that 12-second cooldown, so shortly after that, we can then get another one, which is pretty damn crazy. This is your highest damaging ability in Necromancy, and it is vitally important that you do this trick. So yeah, Living Death, Adrenaline Pot on tick, it's fantastic. And there is also technically another trick you can do as well, and we'll utilize this in the Raziel fight, actually, quite a lot. And that trick, well, you've kind of already seen it really, but it's about Living Death resetting the cooldowns of your Touch of Death and Death Skulls. So what we do at the start of Raziel, we instantly use Death Skulls, followed by, well, we do Soul Sub actually, but then Touch of Death. And these are on cooldown. Then we build back up to 100% adrenaline, a little bit like that. And then we ulti, Living Death and Adrenaline Pot, Touch of Death, and then we get another Death Skulls, then we repeat the whole process. So technically, you can get 3 Death Skulls in Living Death, 1 before it, and 1 after it. This is your best ability in the game, and yeah, that is how you do it. It's a really, really cool trick, so make sure you're utilizing it. And also, just another tip, during your Living Death, make sure you're, autoing or basic attacking to get your Necrosis stacks. Basically, the only abilities you should use during Living Death are Death Skulls, Touch of Death, basic attacks, and Finger of Death. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters, because Finger of Death does 1.5 times damage while inside it, so it's really, really good. And every auto you do gives you 2 Necrosis stacks, which each stack makes your Finger of Death cost 10% less adren, so it's just really good to do. But yeah, hopefully you guys found this video useful and interesting. Hopefully it'll speed up your bossing kills. It's a really good trick. Just practice the Living Death and Adrenaline Pot in the same tick at dummies or something before you go bossing. And yeah, good luck. Hopefully you get some cool drops. Hopefully your kills are smooth. And yeah, I'll see you next time.